Hey guys and welcome. This video is on the plugin Mythic Mobs, and this is a plugin that's been suggested by someone and their name and their comments popping up on your screen right now. There's quite a few features to cover in this plugin, so we'll start off by covering some of the basics and then go into the configuration later on. So we'll start off with some of the basic commands. /mm is your basic command, and that'll show you a list of them. You've got mobs, eggs, items, spawners, reload and debug. So we'll start off by looking at the mobs. So /mm mobs, that will show you a list of the mobs, and basically we're going to look at list and spawn. So if you do mobs and then list, it will show you a list of all the current mobs that have been created. I've created Speed King, and I'll show you later on how to create that in the config file. So for now what we'll do is spawn in a different mob. So we'll do /mm spawn, mobs spawn, then the name of whatever mob you want to spawn. So for instance, I'll just do the skeleton minion because I know it doesn't do a lot, and then 1. So as you can see, he spawned here and then he'll die. So that's actually one of the ones that isn't actually a boss. It's a sub creature that's been created off a boss, but I know that one's not going to attack me or do a lot. So the next thing is actually to create spawners that will spawn this mob. So for instance, what you do is look at a block. So this is just a sign, but you can turn it into a spawner and it will still be a sign. So spawners shows a list of all the spawner commands. Then you want to create one, so you do spawners create, then the name, so I'm just going to call it test, and then what mob you want. So I created one called Speed King, so we'll do that. So now this is a spawner for Speed King, so eventually it will pop out with a mob. So it might just take whatever the cooldown is by default, so probably about 10 seconds. As you can see, it's popped out. So now obviously this is just going to pop out one mob. We can actually change the settings of the mob spawner itself. So to do this, you do /mm spawner set A, and that will show you a list of the things you can change about the actual spawner itself. Then instead of A, you want to set the name, so test. Then you want to change the attribute, so we'll change the cooldown, and the cooldown we want to change to 5. So now every 5 seconds the cooldown will be complete. The next thing we want to change is the actual amount of mobs you can have, so max mobs, and we want this to be 3. So this means up to 3 zombies will spawn, but between each spawn there'll be a 5-second gap. Then you've got warm up. So if we set warm up to 10 seconds, that means it takes 10 seconds for the first one to spawn. And then you've got show flames true, and that'll just show flames on the mob spawner, so you can actually tell where they're spawning from. So for instance, I've got 3 spawned now. If I was to kill these and then just wait, I'll have to wait for the warm up and the cooldown, and then they'll start to spawn after each other. So after a while that'll spawn. Then you can actually view information about the spawner itself, and to do that you do spawner info and then whatever it's called. So this one's called test, and as you can see, there's currently 2 mobs that have been spawned, and the current warm up time is 5 seconds. So currently 2 mobs and 3 seconds and 9 seconds. So that will change as it goes through it. So that's basically most of the features for this. You can actually copy this and create another spawner that's identical to this one, and to do that you just do /mm spawner copy the original name, so this one was called test, and then a name of the new spawner, so I'll call that one tester. So now it's created an identical spawner, so this is good if you've got bosses and things like that to create exactly the same spawner at the end. And as you can see, this is his special. Basically what he does is spawn loads of zombies, and I'll show you how to do this in the config file later. So for now I'll just kill all them, and what we'll do is show you how to delete them. So to do it you do spawner delete and then the name. So obviously I'll delete both for now. So that's how you remove the spawners. So that's basically most of the features of the plugin in game. The other thing you can do is actually give yourself a spawn egg, and to do that you do eggs egg get, then the mob name, so Speed King, and then however many you want. So for instance, I'll give myself 4. So when I spawn him in, so I'll give myself a diamond sword so I can kill him. And then you've got the custom items. So as you can see, these speed boots, what they do is give you 40 health and plus 0.2 speed boost. And then he's dropped golden nuggets as well. So if I quickly change my game mode, what you can see is just by holding it, it's giving me that 40 health extra and it's giving me the speed boost. Or I can wear it and it'll do exactly the same thing. Because this obviously activates if you have it over a sword as well. So for instance, I could have a sword with the same stats, and when I was attacking with it, it could give me extra health and things like that. And I'll show you how to set that up in the config file as well. So we'll quickly go over to the config files now and show you how to set them up. Right, so this is the config files. I've got them all open at the moment, and this is the config. There's not a lot you can change in here, so just leave that one blank. So the first one we'll look at is the example mobs. So by default, this is how your file will look. So basically this is here, so you've got the mob type, so that's what mob will actually spawn. So for instance, the wither skeleton will spawn for this mob, and this is called the skeleton king. This is his display name, so that's what will be the tag above his head. Then you've got the health, the damage they do. Then you've got their skills, so as a skill you can have a message, so this is why he shouts that so often. It's got message within a radius of 20, and then it's got this is the message, and that's how often. Then you've got the skills, so these are skills, these are in a separate file, and I'll show you these in a second. You've then got his equipment, and also the equipment is in a separate file as well, so you've got the king crown and the sword. Then you've got the drops, which is also in a separate file. It's all in separate files, but trust me, although it sounds confusing, it does make it a lot easier. So then you've got, this is his drops, and then you've got the options, so always show name, true, movement speed, so a few different things you can set. So I've gone down to the bottom, I've copied and pasted it, and I've created Speed King. The mob type is a baby zombie. Then I've got his display name is Zombie King. His health is only 5, that's why I could one hit him. His damage is only 1, that's why he does nothing. His skill is Zombie Spawn, so this is what I've created. So that's my Zombie Spawn, I'll show you how to make that in a minute. The equipment is King Crown, Skeleton Sword, and Speed Boots. So Speed Boots is the item I've created. Drops speed boots, so drops his speed boots. And then the options, same again here. So if we quickly go and look at the items, so this is the example items. As you can see, speed boots is the one I've created. This is the ID, so this means diamond boots. The data is 0, the amount is 1. Then the display for it is speed boots. You've got the lore, so it says the information. And then you've got options. So as you can see, the options is the 40 health, which I told you, and the movement speed. But you can change a few other things, like you've got enchantments on this one. So that's how you create the actual item itself for the mob to have. Then you've got the drop table, and basically in the drop table you can have this, which is the name for the drop. So if we go back to the example mobs, this one drops Skeleton King drops, which in the drop table is this, and these are all the things that drop. So you can actually set the XP that drops, and you can set the items that drop. So this here means that it will drop 32 to 64, and it'll always drop. So the 1 means the percentage chance of the drop, and basically it just means that it'll get between 32 and 64 golden nuggets every time it's killed. So now if we quickly look at the example skills, as you can see here are the example skills. Smash attack was one of them, summon skeletons, and obviously I've added zombie spawn at the bottom. It's got a cooldown of 100. And then what it does is messages you saying arise zombies, there's a delay, and then the zombies are spawned. And that's done with the summon command, so it summons, then a mob. If you wanted to spawn another boss, what you do is put the $sign and then whatever your name for it is. So that's what it creates the zombies there. But it's really easy to do a summon. There are lots of other things you can do. Summon is only one of them, but there are lots of things you can do. You can do teleporting, you can do explosions. There'll be a full list of them in the description. I'll put a link to that. And then the next thing is the actual random spawns. So you can have the mobs actually randomly spawn inside your world. So as you can see, I've got random Speed King here. And basically what it does is spawn this mob in this world. The chance, I'm not quite sure what that means. I've set it to 50, but that doesn't mean 50% of the mobs. I'm not sure if it means 50% of the zombies. I'm not quite sure. But it does spawn them, I know that, so that obviously means something. That's definitely a cool feature because it means they can just spawn randomly. I'd probably disable this because if I was using this plugin, I definitely want it just to be in the dungeons or quests that I've set up, just to be a final mob, and I'd have them activated by command blocks. But there's definitely lots of features you can change in this. I will put links to everything you'll need to know in the description below. I suggest you all just have a play around with it. It's definitely a fun plugin. You can definitely create some really good bosses. There's loads of custom mobs you could come up with for this. There'll be a download link to it in the description below. And as always guys, please remember to rate, subscribe and comment. Cheers!